What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com, coming back at you with a product review video. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm a little rusty. But today we're going to be talking about Ketone IQ, which is by the HVMN brand. That does not stand for human, which I used to think it did. I had the owner on my podcast. That stands for Health via Modern Nutrition, which makes a lot more sense than human. But this is the Ketone IQ. It is an exogenous ketone supplement. Before we dive into this particular exogenous ketone supplement, let's talk about exogenous ketones for just a bit. So you've got your ketone salts, like your, most of those are all paired with like a sodium or a potassium or a calcium or something of that nature. Most of them do not have a ton of actual ketone molecules in there that's going to be entering your body and used as a fuel source, because since they are paired with a mineral, you're going to reach a GI threshold before you actually reach, in most cases, enough to benefit from those ketone bodies. So that's where the application for esters comes in, because esters are not paired to a mineral. They're not paired to a sodium, potassium, or calcium mineral. So you get a much larger quantity of actual ketone bodies coming in that your body then assimilates and uses. There is a place for ketone salts. A lot of people benefit from them just because of the mineral load, honestly. People will take the ketone salts, they'll be deficient in electrolytes, they'll have that influx in sodium or potassium from those ketone salts, they'll feel better, and they'll oftentimes attribute that to the ketone salts, whereas in reality it's just the salts. So if you're taking in enough electrolytes, you're probably not going to notice as much of a benefit from the ketone salts. And again, they're not all created equal. Some salts are better than others. Some ketone salts are better than others. But if you get a clean source and you're not really expecting it to have a profound difference on you, then you can probably do that just fine. That actually is there's a brand of ketone salts that I'm experimenting with currently. I'll talk more about that later. That's a whole other video. But let's talk about the exogenous ketone esters. So when it comes to the esters, this is an interesting thing. I did a whole podcast with the owner of HVMN, very interesting stuff. When esters first hit the market, it was not even a viable product, because making a serving of esters costs like $35,000, which if this thing costs, $100,000 or whatever the servings amount in here is, I certainly would not be drinking it and making a video about it. But they've been able to improve that process and make it much more cost-effective and a viable option for the everyday consumer. Originally, they were using research for working with exogenous ketones for the military. Actually, Dominic D'Agostino did quite a bit of research on that for DARPA, I believe, and the military personnel try to use that as a fuel source for our military. But now it's become a consumer product that people that are following a ketogenic diet or just simply want to benefit from exogenous ketones can now get and use. Real quick, when it comes to ketone supplementation in general, there's a mixed bag of reviews on that. Some people, through faulty marketing of companies and dishonest marketing of companies, have come to believe that they can eat whatever they want, carb-laden foods, sugar-laden foods, drink some ketone esters or have some ketone salts, and boom, be back into ketosis and good to go and no harm, no foul. That is not the philosophy I subscribe to, nor do I recommend that mentality. When it comes to exogenous ketones, I honestly don't even really use them so much for weight loss. I don't really recommend using them for fat loss. I don't use them when I'm in a cutting phase. I use exogenous ketones more so from a mental cognition standpoint. I like to have this when I am about to jump on a podcast, when I'm about to do a video, when I'm about to do something that requires more mental bandwidth. I've been kind of playing around with it as a pre-workout, and I don't notice, it's not like a stimulant. It's not like taking a bunch of caffeine. You're not going to notice this high, this jittery feeling, this massive surge in energy that you would with caffeine supplementation. I think it's just more of an even keel energy, which I like taking for podcasts. So most supplements I'm pretty skeptical about. I don't honestly like most supplements. I take like creatine, vitamin D, and that's pretty much about it. I don't really recommend many supplements. However, I have been using this Ketone IQ brand exogenous ketone ester quite extensively for the past month or so. They were gracious enough to send me a whole bunch of these samples, and since I had a bunch of it, I've been using it quite a bunch. And what I've found, and I can confidently say now, is that in taking about 30 milliliters, not milliliters, is it milliliters? Yeah, 30 mils, about 20 minutes before a podcast, my ability to have data recall, form a sentence, and just have a better conversation is noticeably enhanced. I like to consider myself a pretty good podcaster, a pretty good podcast host. I feel like I can listen to my guests, have good conversation with them, bounce ideas back and forth, and be engaged. But I feel like my ability to just pull, data recognition, data recall from things that have been said prior in the episode or prior in my research, and just have a better conversation is significantly improved. So if you're wanting to, up the ante from a cognition standpoint, I definitely feel like this is worthwhile. So, one thing about this stuff, it is not very tasty. It honestly tastes kind of gross. Most companies probably wouldn't want you to say that, but even the ester companies agree that their stuff tastes pretty gross. It's kind of like taking a shot of alcohol, like tequila or something like that. So if you like tequila, maybe you'll like this stuff. But about 30 mils right before a podcast or something like that works pretty well. A lot of people mix it with something like a seltzer water, and that would certainly take the edge off. It's not bad, but it's certainly not something that you naturally reach for from a flavor standpoint. It is better chilled, though. I have noticed that for sure. Don't drink it at room temp. Throw it in the fridge and drink it chilled. So that's about all that I have to say about Ketone IQ and exogenous ketone esters. I've had podcasts on this. Definitely check out that podcast. They were gracious enough to send me some, and they hooked me up with a discount code. I believe that code is SAVAGE, which I believe will save you 10% if you are interested and want to give this a shot. I'm currently playing around with it from a sleep standpoint. A lot of people say that they like taking exogenous ketone esters about an hour before they fall asleep or 30 minutes before they fall asleep. They notice deeper sleep. But to be honest with you, my sleep's been all kinds of jacked up right now because we just had a baby. So I'm waking up at 12:30, 2:30, and 3 to change diapers. So it would probably be a pretty skewed experiment for me to play around with it from a sleep improvement standpoint. But I can confidently say that my podcasts are better when I do supplement with this. So all of that to say, I like it. This is one of the supplements that I do vouch for. Give it a shot if you're interested, and I'll talk to you next time.